because it is a dumb name. Like, if Stone Cold Steve Austin had been called Plinkton Plonkton, it would have been way harder to get him over than calling him Stone Cold Steve Austin. So we are on the road to Survivor Series, my friends, and we've essentially set up our 2 War Games matches, or have we? I mean, we've definitely got the women's one that I keep getting confused, but it's basically Team Rhea Ripley versus Team Liv Morgan, which makes sense based on 2024. And we know we're getting Team Bloodline versus Team Bloodline 2.0. We know that Bronson Reed is going to be on Bloodline 2.0 size, but is Seth Rollins going to join? Well, the answer is right now, we don't know. I would imagine the answer is yes. I talked about this on Ups and Downs of One Culture. Make sure you check that out. And please do subscribe to me and interact with all my videos as much as you can do. But this feels like we are just trying to elongate something that is going to happen, which makes sense, right? It's a week-to-week television program. You need cliffhangers, you need to go left, you need to go right, and you need to keep surprising people. But I don't know if it's a fan theory or fantasy booking or what people just hope are going to happen. I mean, there is logic to it, is that Paul Heyman, the wise man, after Roman Reigns tried to call him last week, maybe does return before Survivor Series, and he just goes, listen, if Seth Rollins isn't going to be your guy, I know a guy, he's a Paul Heyman guy, and that's how CM Punk comes back to WWE and how he features on War Games or Survivor Series. Because at one point, everyone thought it was going to be Survivor Series Gunther versus Punk. I think we probably are going to do Gunther versus Punk. That's going to be at the Rumble. And that's when it all depends how long-term WWE is going with this, right? What I mean by that is if you're going to input Punk into the War Games, I would have to imagine into the War Games, like I'm my dad talking about something he doesn't understand. But if you are going to do that, somehow it'll irk Seth Rollins, I suppose, just because even though he didn't want to be in it, you don't want someone who you consider to be a mortal enemy to get that rub as well, especially when you had Jimmy Uso, Jey Uso, and Sami Zayn being so nice. You'd be like, excuse me, you know, you were acting like you're my boy, then you hang out with that guy. It's absolutely disgusting. But if we are going to do Seth versus Punk at WrestleMania, which I think we are, and we're going to start planting the seeds here, but I also think we're going to go through CM Punk versus Gunther, then fair play to WWE, because that is trying to balance a lot of stories, which is something they wouldn't have done a few years ago, whereas we know they've been doing that more ever since the new era kicked into gear. But I would still be very impressed by it because you are swerving one way in order to swerve back the other way. But it would be great because it would mean you plant those seeds, we don't get into it, but those two can coexist in the same show, in the same environment, and obviously have beef with each other. Then Punk goes on to challenge Gunther. I think that will probably go down on the first Raw Netflix, January 6th, and they will have the match at the Raw Rumble. Depending how long you want to elongate that, I think Punk will be the champion, and I think the Night 1 WrestleMania 41 main event, depending what's going on with Cody the Rock and Roman, I'm sure that's still up in the air, is going to be Seth Rollins versus CM Punk, which is what we meant to do at WrestleMania 40, and I do think it'll be a pretty good match. I do think there's an amazing story there to tell, so why the flub not, man? I mean, some people say that we should take all the Bloodline and Cody stuff and put it over both nights. I want everybody to get an opportunity. But again, whatever we do is perfectly fine. But that is just, it's just a crazy, because WrestleMania is basically mid-April. So we're in mid-November, let's say. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit. So mid-December, mid-January, mid-February, mid-March. That's 5 more months. We still got, is that right? December, January, February, March. My gosh, it is. So we're only actually like 6 months removed or 7 months removed from WrestleMania 40, which is absolutely incredible. But I like the fact that we can get into the weeds with this. Again, if you're going to put a gun to my head, I'd say put the gun down, bro. There's no need for this. But I would presume that it will be Seth Rollins, and that it's just, given that Survivor Series is only 2 weeks away, it's very sort of, what's what I'm looking for? It's very fast though for Punk all of a sudden to return after not being on TV for so long, and then you head off in that direction as well. But I suppose if he does help, thing is, as I cut myself off, then you have to start teasing the Roman Reigns CM Punk match as well. I guess it all depends on what you want to do at War Games, because if you put Seth Rollins in there, you can get the win for Bloodline 2.0, because Seth has made it very clear he's never going to coexist with Roman. He hates Roman. He can't control himself around Roman. So he can whoop Roman Reigns' ass at one point, and that's how Bloodline 2.0 get their victory. I love that, because it means, again, hopefully sooner rather than later, we can do Roman versus Seth, which is a feud I've wanted for ages. Because when you get into that one, you have to touch on the Shield stuff, and you have to get all the things that we did at WrestleMania. In a dream world, you get John Moxley back. Obviously, never going to happen, so that's not a shame, because John Moxley is doing great. But I kind of feel like when you go back to that program for one last time, you're done, right? I'm not sure you can go back to it for a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, but I think that does set up a lot for 2025, and Roman and the Bloodline will be done eventually. The Rock's not going to be there for too long, so, you know, if Roman's going to be around, he's got to do something, and the Seth thing is right there. So, again, I think it will be Seth Rollins. If we do pull a Paul Heyman returning, putting Punk in there, it's going to be incredible, especially because it was a year ago since CM Punk returned at Survivor Series in Chicago. And I just love the fact that WWE has all these options, and let's not, stand on ceremony here, Mr. Wayne. Let's not pull the carpet from underneath Bronson Reed's feet. Awesome that Bronson Reed is in the position. I presume the men's War Games will be the main event of Survivor Series. I presume he's going to be treated like a force. He could even turn around and take out Solo Sikoa, and a lot of them, should you wish. And some people are saying they think he's in the bloodline properly. I don't think so. I think he's going to exist in his own entity, which is perfectly cool. I love that he's been moved into this position, and of course he got his big win on Raw when he beat Seth Rollins. And I'm not going to get mad that Solo Sikoa was doing his weird emotes on Alan the announce table, because I even said this when we were predicting Crown Jewel. I was like, I don't care how Bronson Reed gets the win as long as he gets the win. So if this is how he gets the win, that's fine by me, because again, WWE's been smart here. Even though he didn't win the match at Crown Jewel, he feels like a way bigger star now. And that tsunami is just like the death nail. It's like, you can't be hit with the tsunami. Bad things will happen. So I think all of this has been pretty terrific. I am glad we got through the Saudi Arabia show, because it did feel like we were, well, just getting in the way of things, which we also saw on SmackDown, right? Because Cody Rhodes is all mad, and Kevin Owens has been summoned back to the building because Cody Rhodes wants it. So all these cool things are happening. And it sounds like the Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, Cody Rhodes stuff isn't going to happen at Survivor Series. I think that's ballsy. Some people are like, oh, the Survivor Series card doesn't look very good. I'm pretty into it. But we do have Saturday night's main event 2 weeks afterwards, and we do have that Netflix show, which is going to be treated like a pay-per-view, and then the Royal Rumble's not till early February. So let's space this stuff out. Don't need to give me everything. There's so much wrestling content. I would always rather there was a big story blow-off on all of these shows. And why have Saturday night's main event if you're not going to treat it like a big show? That's what happened the last time they had it 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was. It was nothing like the one in the 80s, and it kind of just felt like, oh, well, I guess I could tune in. Let's not forget, it's going to be on network TV in America. I believe that's the case. So you have the potential to get a huge audience. I mean, 3 million plus, I would guess, assume. I don't know. So you could argue it's even more important than some of the other things we've got going on. So no issue with holding Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes off to then. And we also have the women's match. Let me see if I can do this. The reason I get so confused with it, and it is I don't want to call it a criticism because I'm not annoyed by it, but when you compare the two, this one feels very rushed. And it feels like, well, who can we put where? Love the fact that Rhea Ripley returned on Raw. I think that is a huge plus. And if she's happy to work with the face protector with her orbital bone, then more power to her. I think it makes you quite brave. It makes me sound like her dad, but it's true. I think you're putting a lot on the line there. And of course, it means she's the modern day Undertaker who wore it in the early 90s. But it is. I'm going to get this wrong. It's Jade Cargill. It's Bianca Belair. Of course, it's Rhea Ripley. And then it's Io Sky and it's Naomi. Oh, we did it. Thank goodness for that. Versus Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez. I wear sunglasses now because I'm a heel. It's Nia Jax. It's Tiffany Stratton. I can never remember the fifth person. I bet it's so obvious. Let me do it again. Liv Morgan, obviously, done. Her friend Raquel, Nia, her friend Tiffany. Why can't I remember hang on one second. And it's Candice LeRae. I'm an idiot, man. Candice don't watch this, but that's the worst person I could have dropped because she just doesn't feature enough as it is. But they have done a lot better with her recently over the last couple of weeks, so that's a good thing. And I mean, the fact that Candice LeRae is in it again, it's all very, very last minute, and it's mostly because WWE enjoys having 2 War Game matches, and I do like the balance. I really, really do, because for way too long, women's wrestlers were just marginalized, and it was rubbish, and it was pathetic, and I didn't like it at all, and nobody should have liked it. But if you are just talking about from a storyline point of view, Bloodline versus Bloodline has a lot more reasoning to do it than Team Rhea versus Team Morgan. I mean, not the fact that you could do those two, but some of the people in it, you're like, why are you in it? I don't understand why you're hanging out playing Nintendo. But this has happened with the women before, and they've always gone out there and put on an incredible match. We did the video the other day when we ranked the War Games matches from worst to best. It'll be on the screen now. Please make sure you click it. And it's a very similar story throughout all of that. But this is the same for me always, be it the Royal Rumble or War Games, or if we were going to still have Hell in a Cell pay-per-view. I'd rather we always picked one and make sure, you don't go too far in one direction. So if you've gone women's, do a man's and vice versa. But I mean, ultimately, I was going to use the Royal Rumble as an example. The Royal Rumble is so going to be 2 nights in 2026, because if you're doing that with SummerSlam, you're obviously going to do it with the Royal Rumble. Then one night the men's can headline and one night the women's can headline. That's fine. I just don't like it when it's 2 on the same night, and I was always pushing to have another match or another pay-per-view or another event later on in the year where you could do the women's or the men's one, but I understand it. Maybe that's a little bit overkill. That segment did feel like a very by-the-numbers WWE segment. I come out, you come out. I don't like you, I don't like you. But it was saved, I guess, for lack of a better term, because the Rhea Ripley surprise, because we all thought she was going to be out for ages, because she does actually have a proper broken orbital bone, but I guess you can just work with that, right? Or we're being worked, which is totally fine. It's the point of wrestling. No problem being worked. It just makes Rhea Ripley feel like a badass. Not going to talk about that, because I talk about it all the time, and I'm bored of people getting mad at me. But people keep saying, oh, Rhea Ripley needs to look weak. doesn't need to look weak. That's all I'm going to say. She should look like Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm so bored of saying that. Why do I say it all the time? But it was good, right? It was fine for what it was. I thought the match of the night was Sheamus versus Bron Breakker. Sheamus is going to win the Intercontinental title in 2025, I hope, and it's going to have me crying water from my seeing devices. But they just smashed each other up, and I enjoyed it so much, and I like Ludwig Kaiser so much, I didn't even care it ended in a DQ, which is rare for me, because these days disqualifications often feel like a get-out-of-jail-free cause. But after Gunther had said to Ludwig, you could get out there, bro, and become your own man, so he was like, all right, fine. Well, I told Sheamus I'm not going to let him get away with it, so he didn't. We have planted those seeds. Now, it doesn't make any sense why he waited 10 minutes to do this. Why didn't he come out in the first minute? But Bron Breakker is flipping awesome. Sheamus is the absolute man. He's returned from that injury and arguably is having his best run ever. And again, Ludwig Kaiser has so much potential as a heel. So if we're going to do them as a three-way, who's going to get mad at that? Not me. Any one of them could win the Intercontinental title, I'd be fine. And of course, we talked about that Gunther segment. We've turned Gunther into a sad panda, which is wonderful. He's lost his confidence after losing to Cody Rhodes in the Crown Jewel. This title is horrendous tournament. And it's not really a tournament, was it? We just did champion versus champion. And he asked Ludwig Kaiser, his fake son, look into my eyes. What do you see? There's your CM Punk T. He's definitely going to do it in 2025. But his point was, I feel like I'm the same dude. Do you think I'm the same dude? And Ludwig obviously loves him. Like, yes, you're the same man. He tries to attack Damien Priest, who I said there's some ups and downs too, was right there. Who put them in this vicinity to one another? You're terrible at your job. He tries to jump Damien Priest. He's not able to because Damien Cheap is the general of the streets, which sounds like a Streets of Rage character, and he whooped Gunther's ass. Now listen, at Survivor Series, I would say that Damien Priest probably has 1% chance of winning, but what's the word I'm looking for? The level he has delivered during the last few weeks, he has become his own guy. Doesn't need Rhea Ripley, doesn't need the Judgment Day. This is the Damien Priest that he has to be forever now. Just a cool dude that you want to hang out with, and if you get in his face, he'll beat the crap out of you. It is wonderful. I think these are the best promos or the best speaking parts he's ever had, and that's all on him, I guess, for going internally and figuring out who he is. And, here he quipped to Adam Pearce, and that's what's going to happen at the pay-per-view. It's not. I don't think we're going to take the belt off Gunther, mostly because I've decided it is going to be CM Punk. We did that video as well. But Damien Priest has done himself the world of good here, and I'm super-duper excited to see what we're going to do with him. Same with The New Day. The New Day is arguably the best feud on WWE television right now, if you are into sort of characters that have been around for a while with the slow burn, because, Kofi Kingston was talking to the Alpha Academy. They're very excited about the New Day 10-year celebration in a couple of weeks. Maxine Dupree was so excited about it for no reason. So why do you care? But it was very nice. And Xavier Woods still feels like he's been personally assaulted or affronted, I guess, from the Karrion Kross thing, and Kofi doesn't care. So now these two are going to take on the Alpha Academy next week. And listen, I think the end of this is Big E returning, not even necessarily to wrestle, but just making sure he is involved, because he was a huge part of that group, to reunite them. But I think we have to do the match. I think if we don't do the match, we're doing a disservice to everybody. And I think there'll be some real pulling of the heartstrings to that, because when the hell was the last time we saw Kofi Kingston versus Xavier Woods, if ever? They have been a group for the last 10 years. I think we should do it. Doesn't matter if you get a finish or not, come up with a cool story, but don't take it away from me, even though the pop for Big E, my gosh, it make the happiest man alive. I think we can get a fight first, because that's only going to add to the animosity. So I was a big fan of that too. And we did Rey Mysterio and Zelina Vega versus Chad Gable and Ivy Nile. It just comes and goes too quickly, this story. And I know, Simon, you have to have some responsibility to that, because I'm a pusher of the 2 hours of Raw. Well, it doesn't matter, because it's going to be 3 hours of Raw and 3 hours of SmackDown in 2025, so we're going to get it anyway. I'm always going to prefer 120 minutes. It's just the way that I'm built. But again, there is a counterpoint to that. This was like, well, I don't really care, to be completely honest. You're all really good workers, especially the Chad Gable, Rey Mysterio stuff, super good. But because it comes and goes so fast, just like, shrug emoji. I can't get into this because you're going to go away again. And when Chad Gable slapped the Creeds, I understand this was meant to motivate them, and the commentators sold that, but I'm so done with groups just, again, having animosity with each other. Just get on, all right? It's bad enough with the New Day, right? They got on for 10 years. Now I got to deal with that on a personal level. I don't need anybody else doing it, especially because we cut to that for the Judgment Day, and Finn Balor is falling out with Dominic Mysterio. Now, that one is justified. I think come 2025, the Judgment Day have come to an end, which isn't a problem. That's perfectly fine. It's time to draw a line under it. But it's just a lot, especially because the Bloodline is just family people having an argument, and that's been going on for ages. And we had it with Austin Theory, and we had it with Grayson Waller, and we had it with DIY, and we didn't really have it with the Street Profits, but they're pissed off too. That's why I love the Motor City Machine Guns. The Motor City Machine Guns are the only people that have got it together. Although JD and Finn, they have a nice relationship too. And we had the War Raiders versus Dominic Mysterio, his moustache, and Carlito. Obviously, the War Raiders won, then Finn Balor and JD beat them up. The War Raiders should win these championships, again, either at Survivor Series or Saturday Night's Main Event or on that Netflix show. And on 2025, well, if I was in control, which I'm not because nobody would be that mad, I would merge these tag team titles together again. I think they've been worse ever since we've had a Raw set and a SmackDown set. What I actually would do is I would have one set of women's tags, which we've done, one set of men's, and even though the US Women's Championship is very SmackDown centric, I would make that one too, and I would merge the IC and US Championship for the men, and I would do that. I think it would make the product way better, especially because you are going to have the Netflix version of Raw in America and the TV version of SmackDown. I think that's just a way to sort of, make it a big deal when you put the championship over there. But they're not going to do it, and I presume I don't mind getting the women's Intercontinental title if we call a bunch of NXT women up, which I think we should do. But at least with the men's tag team division, it was better at one belt. And yeah, ever since we did do it at WrestleMania, I don't think we've particularly highlighted it as much as we had done in the years before that, especially the WrestleMania main event. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, the War Raiders getting their nod finally, I think would be awesome because they were sort of sullied with the whole Viking experience thing because it is a dumb name. Like if Stone Cold Steve Austin had been called Plinkton Plonkton, it would have been way harder to get him over than calling him Stone Cold Steve Austin. So pretending that a couple of people are Vikings, even though they did very good with it, well, yeah, just pull the trigger and we can see how we get on with that. But we just need more tag teams because who the hell do they even feud with? I mean, the New Day potentially, if they get back on the same page, but you kind of feel like you've seen that. Could the Street Profits jump over and we do that in order for them to get some titles? Because obviously they've been airing their frustrations. I do not know. But I do enjoy how quickly Raw zooms through. I really do. And we had the Wyatt 6 video as well. You should just watch that. I mean, if nothing else, Bo Dallas looks just like Bray Wyatt, which I'm sure is intentional, but it still gets you, all things considered. But I really like the Miz carrying Cross one early in the night where they come across like dickheads. And then obviously the Uncle Howdy one, Bo Dallas one, comes across as a lot more thinking and scary and spooky wooky. And, the things that they say are always absolute nonsense. But when you deliver them with the gravitas that Bo Dallas does, which is why he's good for this kind of a role, it just works. So solid episode of Raw, nothing crazy. Not sure you have to go out of your way. I do have a few opinions here, some hot takes. My man Adam Pearson, who's starring in Hollywood movies now, so he's smashing it. Always pleased to hear from him. And he's even said this is how they should have packaged Bronson from day one, rather than messing around releasing him and then messing around a bit more. Him and Seth are one of the better feuds of the year. Totally. I mean, I couldn't even say it better myself. And let's hope we've established him now at this level and we don't go backwards. Smoking Wrestling, which is an interesting name, says shows that people shouldn't be quick to moan about a pre-tape episode a week before it's aired. It was fun again. Were people moaning about it? Don't worry. I didn't even see that. If people are moaning about it, they're just the crazies. You can't moan about a pre-taped episode because you're only ever going to get secondhand. The people that moaned about it are the ones that just want to moan. That's all it is. They don't actually mean it. They just get some information. They can go, I can, turn this into a thing. Whereas anybody with half a brain who's a normal human would go, well, I'm only receiving secondhand information here, so I'll sit on it and wait. So as long as you had fun, that's the main thing. David Newport says the New Day storyline is top notch. Breaks my heart seeing them argue. Bring back Big E soon. I imagine that is how it's going to go down. And that will be wonderful. But to ensure that we enjoy the wonderfulness, we must hit rock bottom first, which is those two having a fight. And Steve Appleton says Damien Priest has finally broken free from the Judgment Day. Based on the clip that I saw, he is a legit challenger for the belt, totally, and he's done that himself. Wyatt seems to be meh, but could be a slow burn. That's interesting how you got Wyatt in there. Wyatt's brilliant. Not sure. What do you mean? I don't know what that means. Rhea, I hope we have one final match. The Liv Rhea feud needs to end so Liv can move on to new challenges. Well, I see it differently. I just think we have to give Rhea Ripley that championship. She's one of the most over women in the women's division. I think that in 2025, you can turn her into an even bigger star than she has been in 2024, but she should be a real dominant, babyface champion. If it's not work, you can turn her heel again, but I imagine it is going to work. And we end with Bobby Blabby, which is another name you could have given to Stone Cold Steve Austin. He says, holy cow, I thought Bo Dallas was Bray Wyatt in that promo. I was like, did they dig up some archive footage? Also, it was pretty good for a Wyatt promo. Well, I think the two things we've received about the Wyatts means that maybe you're not big Wyatts fans, which is totally fine, but I've massively enjoyed everything the Wyatt Six have done. And once again, they should always be less is more, but I would like to see Nikki Cross and Eric Rowan and the rest of them be used more, especially Joe Gacy, give him his big shot. So that's another plus about moving back to 6 hours total WWE running time, is I imagine that we will do that. And I'd love to I think Nikki Cross versus Rhea Ripley could be a really good feud, because Rhea Ripley kind of has that edge to her as well, not Adam Copeland, and of course Nikki Cross does as well. So these are the things I want to get into. As we embark on a brand new year, I want to make sure we get new feuds and new things to get excited about. But WWE feels like in a fun position at the moment. Again, starting to think that Randy Orton is going looking to turn heel before WrestleMania, which is absolutely awesome. But let me know your comments in the comment section below. Where else would you put them? Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Please do click this video on the screen because YouTube loves it when you watch more than one video, and that will help the channel grow, which is what I'm trying to do at the moment. I'd appreciate that, which is why I would love it. You can click the notification bell and come follow me on social medias. Again, all the descriptions, all the links are in the description below. As is grillermind.com/Simon. The Black Friday sale is coming soon. You're going to get like 50% off. So if you're into fitness supplements, it ships worldwide. Go there, use my code Simon, and see those dollars come down, those pounds come down. I love these supplements. I do, so I'm happy to pimp them out. Same with patreon.com/Simon316. Every single dollar in there I put back into the channel, so that would rule. If you're looking for a way to train at home for the new year, you can go to GoGo Fitness. He has an amp. That's Anthony Gogo from AEW. Use code Simon20 to get money off that too. Otherwise, if you want to come to a Progress show, use the code Golden Up or Golden Down for sitting and seating tickets. I'm sure you can figure that one out. Simon316 for social media, Simon Miller for Cameo, Simon J. Miller on TikTok, and ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller. For my wrestling t-shirts, you can get my brand new Proteus Championship title. I defend that for the first time on Sunday at Progress in London against 3 people, all of which are friends. So I'm totally screwed. I'm going to lose my belt. We had a good 2-week run. I'll see you soon.